People think the scary part of working dispatch is the screaming, the car wrecks, the gunshots, the people begging for an ambulance. It isn't. You get numb to the loud ones. The calls that follow you home, the ones you still hear at 4 a.m. years later, are the quiet ones. Because a quiet 911 call almost always means the person on the other end can't afford to be heard. I worked the overnight desk for 6 years. These are 3 of the calls I never told anyone about. This happened about 4 years ago, on a Tuesday in February, somewhere around 2:40 in the morning. The dead middle of a night shift, when the calls dry up and you're mostly fighting to stay awake. I'd been on since 10 p.m., and I'd had maybe 3 calls all night. A fender bender, a guy locked out of his own car, and a woman who wanted to report her neighbor's dog barking, which is not, for the record, a 911 emergency. So when the line lit up again, I answered the way I always did. 911, what's the address of your emergency? Nothing. Just an open line. A little background hiss, the kind you get from a cell phone in a quiet room. We get a lot of these, pocket dials mostly, kids playing with an old phone. Protocol is you don't just hang up, you stay on, you listen, and you try to make contact. So I said it again, slower. This is 911. I can hear that the line's open. If you can hear me, say something for me. And that's when I heard her breathing change. It got faster, shallow. The breathing of someone who is trying very hard to be silent and failing. I've been doing this long enough that something in my chest tightened. A pocket dial doesn't breathe like it's afraid. Okay, I said, keeping my voice flat and gentle. You don't have to talk. I understand if you can't talk right now. I just need you to do one thing for me. If you're in danger, press any number on your phone. Just one. A pause. Then, beep. A single tone in my ear. My whole body went cold and awake at the same time. Good. You did great. I'm right here with you, and I'm not going anywhere. Is there someone in your home with you who's making you feel unsafe? One beep for yes. Are they in the same room as you right now? There was a long, long silence. Then 2 beeps. No, not the same room, but close. This is the part civilians don't know. I could see her phone's location pinging to a rough area on my screen. A residential block on the east side of town. But cell phone location isn't a pin on a map. It's a circle. A wide one. I had maybe a 4-house radius and no apartment number. No name on the account that matched the address. I needed her to narrow it down without speaking. I have your neighborhood, I told her. I'm sending officers your way right now. I keyed the radio with my other hand and put it out. Possible domestic in progress, female caller unable to speak, and the location circle. While they're coming, I need to find your exact house. I'm going to ask you about your front door. Is your porch light on? 1 for yes. 2 beeps. Off. Okay. Is there a vehicle in your driveway? What color? Actually, you can't tell me that, can you? Let's do this instead. I was thinking fast now. I'm going to count colors. Beep when I say the right one. Black. Nothing. White. Nothing. Red. Silver. Blue. Blue. I relate it. A blue vehicle in the driveway, porch light off on that block. One of the responding officers came back almost immediately. He was already on the street, rolling slow with his lights off so as not to spook anyone, and he could see exactly one house with a blue truck out front and no porch light. 3rd from the corner. They found you. I said. Don't react. Don't change anything you're doing. Keep the phone hidden. The officers are going to come to your door. When they knock, I need you to stay exactly where you are unless they tell you to move. Can you do that for me? And then, for the first time, she whispered, barely a thread of sound. He's by the front door. He has a... The line didn't go dead. That would have been easier, honestly. Instead, I heard the phone get muffled, like it was being shoved under something, fabric maybe. And then a man's voice, far off and rising. Who are you talking to? I have never in my life wanted to be inside a phone the way I did in that moment. I couldn't do anything. I could only listen and tell the officers to go now, and they did. I heard it secondhand through both the muffled phone and the radio at the same time. A strange double echo, the bang of a door, shouting, a woman screaming a name that wasn't her own, and then a man yelling something I couldn't make out, and then the sound every dispatcher prays for. An officer's voice, clear and controlled. We've got her. She's safe. Suspects in custody. I sat back in my chair and realized I'd been gripping the edge of the desk so hard my fingers had gone white. I found out later, not the full story, we never get the full story, that the man wasn't her husband. He was an ex she'd had a restraining order against for 8 months. He'd been parked outside her house on and off for weeks, and that night he'd gotten in through a window while she slept. She'd woken up to him standing at the foot of her bed. She'd managed to get to the bathroom and lock the door and call us, and the only reason she's alive is that she remembered something she'd read years before, that if you can't speak, you can still call 911, and you can still answer with the phone. I worked another 2 years after that. I took thousands more calls. But hers is the one I think about, because of how close it was to going the other way. If I'd treated her like a pocket dial and hung up, and there are dispatchers, tired ones, who would have, she would not have made it to morning. So I'll tell you the same thing I tell everyone now. If you ever can't speak, call anyway. Leave the line open. We are trained for the silence. We are listening for you, even when you can't make a sound. This is a story about the night I learned that some people call 911 not because they need help, but because they want to know who's going to come. It was my 3rd year on the desk. October, a slow Sunday into Monday. Around 1 a.m., a call came in, and the second I picked up, I could tell the guy was calm. Too calm. People who dial 911 are almost never calm. Even the ones reporting something minor have that adrenaline edge in their voice. This man sounded like he was ordering a pizza. 911, what's the address of your emergency? There's someone in my backyard, he said. I think they're trying to get into my house. That's a real call, and a serious one, so I went straight into it. I got his address, a house out on the rural edge of the county, the kind of place where the nearest patrol unit might be 15 minutes out. And I told him units were on the way, and asked him to stay on the line. Standard. What you do. But the details didn't sit right. I asked him to describe the person in his yard. He paused, like he was deciding what to say, and then he described them in a way that was strange. He didn't say a man or a woman in dark clothing. He said, "She's just standing there, looking at the house. She hasn't moved in about 20 minutes. 20 minutes, I repeated. Sir, when did you first see this person? Oh, a while ago, he said. I've been watching her watch the house. It's interesting. There was something underneath the word interesting that made the hair on my arm stand up. I asked him to lock his doors and stay away from the windows. He said, I'm not really worried about her getting in. Why's that? Because she can't, he said. She's not real. Now, I want to be clear, because the audience for these stories always asks, My first thought was that this was a mental health call, not a burglary. That happens. People in crisis call 911 and report things that aren't there, and you handle those gently, and you still send help, just a different kind. So I shifted. I kept my voice easy, and I asked him his name and how he was feeling tonight and whether he was safe. And he laughed. A small, private laugh, like I'd said something funny that I didn't understand the joke to. "You're good at this," he said. "I've called a few times, different counties. You're nicer than the last one." The way he said "I've called a few times" turned my stomach. I glanced at the number on my screen and ran it the way we can, and it came back as a prepaid cell. No name, no registered address. The emergency address he'd given me. I had units almost there by now, and I keyed the radio quietly to flag it. Caller possibly not at the location given. Treat as unknown. "Tell me about the house I'm sending officers to," I said. "Do you actually live there?" "No," he said pleasantly. "But you should send them. I want to see how long it takes. That's the whole point. I time it." A pause. Last time, it was 26 minutes. Out where I really am, nobody comes at all. So I borrow other people's addresses. I like to watch the lights show up at a house where nothing's happening. It's like a little parade, just for me. I have taken calls from people who were violent, and people who were dying, and people doing the worst thing you can imagine to another human being. None of them scared me the way this flat, friendly voice did, because there was nothing under it I could reach. No panic, no anger, just a man, somewhere I couldn't find, who had figured out that he could make the system jump and wanted to watch it jump. My officers reached the address. It was a real house, an elderly couple, asleep, no one in the backyard, no one trying to get in. They'd been pulled out of bed at 1 a.m. by flashing lights for absolutely nothing. The man on my line went quiet while it happened, and then he made a small, satisfied sound. 22 minutes, he said. "That's a good one. Thank you." "Sir," I said, and I kept it level even though my hand was shaking. "Do you understand that pulling officers to a fake call means that when a real emergency happens somewhere else, the help is delayed? People can die because of what you're doing tonight." "I know," he said, and there was a smile in it. "That part's interesting too." Then he hung up. "We get a code for this. False reports, repeat callers, the whole category. I wrote it up, I flagged the prepaid number, I gave the description of his behavior to a supervisor. And here is the part I hate. There was nothing else to do. The number went dark. You can't trace a prepaid burner to a man who knows not to be at the address he gives you. He was, as far as the system was concerned, a ghost, one who chose to exist for exactly the length of a phone call and then stopped. He called back twice more over the next year. Different shifts, both times. I recognized the voice instantly each time, that awful calm, and both times he gave a different real address and timed how long it took the lights to arrive. Both times I had to send the units anyway, because the one time I assume he's lying is the time someone actually dies in that backyard. That's what he understood, and that's what made it perfect. He'd found the one cruelty the system can't refuse to participate in. I left the desk eventually. Different reasons mostly. But I'll tell you that on quiet nights, when a call comes in too calm, I still get that drop in my stomach. Because somewhere out there, in a county I'll never know, there's a man sitting by a window with a prepaid phone, watching a stranger's house, waiting for the lights. And I helped send them, every single time. I never had a choice. I sometimes wonder if he's still doing it. I sometimes wonder how many dispatchers have his voice in their head, the way I do. And I wonder, if I'd had the nerve, what would have happened if just once, I hadn't sent anyone at all. This is a story about the call I will never forgive myself for almost missing, and it's the reason I don't work nights anymore. By this point, I'd been on the desk 5 years. I was good at it. I want you to understand that because of what almost happened. I wasn't tired or distracted or new. I was experienced, and that's exactly why it nearly slipped past me. It was a Friday, a little after midnight. My daughter, Maya, was 9. My shift schedule meant she stayed with my mother 3 nights a week, but that night my mom had a chest cold, so for the first time in a long time, Maya was home alone at our house while I worked. She was old enough. It was just for a few hours. The doors were locked. She had my cell. My neighbor across the street knew. I'd done the math the way every parent does and decided it was fine. I told her to call my desk line if she needed anything, gave her the number, told her to go to bed by 10. Around 12:15, a call came in to the general 911 queue. Not my personal line, the main pool, and it routed to me. 911, what's the address of your emergency? A man's voice, older, gruff, a little slurred. Yeah, hi. I want to report a break-in. I think somebody's breaking into the house across the street from me. Okay, what's the address of the house where you're seeing this? He read off an address, and the floor of the room tilted because it was my address, my street, my house number, the house where my 9-year-old daughter was asleep. I want to tell you I stayed perfectly professional. I mostly did, on the outside, because 5 years of training is a hard thing to break. But inside, I had gone somewhere very cold and very far away. Sir, I said, and I heard my own voice come out steady, which felt insane. Tell me exactly what you're seeing. Right now. There's a guy, he said. Went around the back, hopped the fence. He had something in his hand, I couldn't tell what. Lights are off over there. I think there might be a kid in that house. I see her at the upstairs window sometimes. I had already keyed the radio before he finished the sentence. I put it out as an in-progress residential burglary, possible juvenile occupant, and I said my own address out loud to the room, and one of the other dispatchers turned and looked at me because she knew where I lived, and her face changed. Here's what they don't show you in the movies. I could not leave my chair. I could not get in a car and drive to my own house. If I dropped that line, I lost the only eyes I had on the scene. My job, the worst job in the world in that moment, was to stay and work the call while strangers went to save my child. I called Maya's cell from a second line while keeping the caller on the first. It rang, and rang, and went to voicemail. I called the house phone. Same. I told myself she was asleep. Kids sleep through anything, that's all it is. The caller was still talking. He's at the back door now. I think he's inside. He got inside. And then, hey, you want me to go over there? I can go over there. No, sir, do not approach. Officers are seconds out. Stay where you are. 2 units were screaming toward my street. The nearest was 90 seconds. 90 seconds is nothing, and it is the longest unit of time that has ever existed. And then something snagged in my brain. 5 years of listening to people, and some animal part of me caught it before the rest of me did. The caller had said he was across the street. He'd said the lights were off in my house. He'd said he sometimes saw a girl at the upstairs window. But my upstairs windows don't face the street. They face the backyard. There is no house across the street that can see my daughter's window. And the man's voice, under the gruffness, under the fake slur, had the same calm I'd heard once before, on a different night, from a different monster. The calm of someone enjoying themselves. He wasn't across the street. You're not a neighbor, I said. It came out before I could stop it. The line went silent. The fake slur dropped, and his voice when it came back was clear and amused and close. "No," he said, "I'm not." And in the background of his call, not outside, not across a street, but right there with him, in the same space, I heard a sound that stopped my heart. A small voice, my daughter's voice, saying, "Mom?" He was inside my house. He had been inside the whole time. He'd called 911 himself, reported himself as a neighbor, to do exactly what the man a year before had taught me people do, to control where the lights went and when. He wanted me on the line. I think, and I'll never know for sure, that he didn't realize at first that the desk he'd reached was mine. I think when he heard me say my own address back, he understood, and I think that's the part he liked best of all. I don't remember what I said into that phone. The other dispatcher took over my radio. The units hit my house, the real ones, the ones I'd sent, 11 seconds after I figured it out. I know it was 11 seconds because I requested the timeline later and read it 100 times. They went in the front, the back, all at once. They got her. She was in her closet. She'd woken up, heard someone in the house, and done the single smartest thing a 9-year-old has ever done. She'd hidden and stayed silent. The exact thing I spent my whole career begging adults to do. She was okay. Physically, she was okay. The man was caught climbing the back fence. He'd been on our street before. He'd watched the house. He knew a child sometimes stayed there. And he'd learned, somewhere, somehow, the same trick. That the fastest way to know how much time you have is to call the cavalry yourself and listen to them come. I quit the desk within the month. Not because I failed. Everyone tells me I didn't fail, that I caught it, that 11 seconds is a miracle. They're right. But I can't sit in that chair and answer that line, knowing that the one time it mattered most, the call I almost waved off as a helpful neighbor, was a man standing 20 feet from my sleeping daughter, smiling, watching the lights I sent get closer. So when people ask me what the scariest call I ever took was, I don't tell them about the screaming ones. I tell them it was a calm man reporting a break-in across the street. Because there was no house across the street. There never was. He was already inside, and he wanted me to hear it. If you have a story from a job that put you on the wrong end of a quiet night, dispatch, security, nursing, anything, send it to me. Real stories only, and the more detail the better. Subscribe if you want to be here when the next ones go up. And if a call ever comes in too calm, pay attention to it. I learned that one the hard way.